What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Clutch Finisher. Look, we love the UFC because it's supposed to be the place where the best fight the best. There's no boxing politics here, right? Wrong. Sometimes the UFC machine gets behind a fighter, and suddenly their path to the title looks a lot less like a rocky road and a lot more like a freshly paved red carpet. We call this the protection plan. It's smart business, but it drives hardcore fans crazy. Today, we're ranking the top 5 most protected fighters in modern UFC history. We're going from 5 to 1, and trust me, number 1 is going to ruffle some feathers. Let's argue. Before I get into it, I want to give a shout out to my friend Mythic Musa. He makes amazing content, and his channel will be linked in the description below. Let's get into the list. Kicking off the list at number 5, we have Alex Poatan Pereira. We all know the story here. The UFC had one goal: fast track Pereira to Adesanya to cash in on that kickboxing rivalry. But to do that, they had to hide him from the entire middleweight division's grappling department. Guys like Robert Whittaker or Marvin Vettori would have tested his takedown defense immediately. Instead, the UFC matched him with Sean Strickland, a guy who famously decided to stand and bang with the Glory Double champ. It wasn't that Pereira fought bums, it's that he fought strikers. They cleared the path of all grappling threats until the belt was safely around his waist. At number 4, we have the cautionary tale of the developmental shield, Bo Nickal. Bo was the golden child. The UFC put him on massive pay-per-view main cards against guys who barely had Wikipedia pages. They were shielding him from the veteran experience gap. But the protection stopped one fight too early. They finally fed him to a dangerous grappler, RDR, thinking Bo was ready. He wasn't. Bo was the favorite, but RDR derailed the train. It proves that when you protect a fighter too much, they don't learn how to survive when the water gets deep. At number 3, we head to Liverpool for Paddy the Baddy Pimblett, and what's happening right now is actually shameful. We used to joke about Paddy fighting old veterans, but now the UFC has booked Paddy Pimblett against Justin Gaethje for an interim lightweight belt. Here is the reality. Arman Tsarukyan is the clear number 1 contender. He is waiting right there, but the UFC is jumping over him to match Paddy versus Gaethje. Why? Because Gaethje is a striker. He's a fun fight for Paddy. Arman is a wrestler who would maul Paddy, so the UFC is giving him an interim title shot just so Paddy won't have to fight the actual best guy in the lightweight division. That is the definition of protection. At number 2, the blueprint of protection, the notorious Conor McGregor. You can't have this list without Conor. His rise to the 145-pound title was a masterclass in matchmaking. The division was full of wrestlers like Frankie Edgar, but the UFC steered Conor into a lane filled exclusively with strikers like a young Max Holloway, a young Dustin Poirier before he got his man strength, and Seaver. The only wrestler he faced was Chad Mendes, and that was on a 2 weeks notice when Chad was basically off the couch. They protected the asset, secured the title shot, and made millions. It was the perfect execution of the protection plan. And here we are at number 1, the modern masterclass in calculated matchmaking, El Matador Ilia Topuria. Ilia is incredible, but his path to the top and the current reign are the definition of the new protection plan. It's about timing and avoiding the grinders. His fans will say he fought Bryce Mitchell. Mitchell has good grappling. Yes, Bryce is a fantastic jiu-jitsu practitioner, but he isn't an impressive chain wrestling powerhouse who smothers you for 15 minutes. Ilia passed the test, but it wasn't the ultimate grappling test. Then, look at the timing. He got a title shot against Alexander Volkanovski coming off a devastating head kick loss against Islam Makhachev. The timing was perfect to catch a legend when his durability was compromised. But the real reason he's number 1 is the double duck. First, at featherweight, he vacated the division without ever fighting the real challenger, Movsar Evloev, the undefeated wrestling menace. He ran from the biggest style threat at 145. Then, when Ilia moved to lightweight, the UFC protected him again by matching him up with yet another favorable matchup. They matched him up with Oliveira instead of Tsarukyan, and we know that Oliveira stands up with everybody and gets dropped by everybody. And after beating Charles, the UFC now plans to match him up with the winner of Gaethje and Pimblett instead of Arman. That, folks, is the ultimate protection plan. So that's the list. The UFC is a business and protecting stars makes money. But as fans, we have to call it out. What do you guys think? Did I miss anyone? Is Ilia smart or is he scared? Let me know in the comments. Smash that like button, subscribe to Clutch Finisher, and I'll see you in the next one.